to share with you a few minutes on this 5th Global Peace Convention.
Me dijeron que tenía que hablar de algunas reflexiones sobre liderazgo moral y también innovador en esta tarde.
I was told that I should share with you some comments on moral and innovative leadership this afternoon.
Y me gustaría compartir con ustedes el pensar que el mundo está hoy atravesando una transformación en la construcción de un liderazgo.
And I would like to share with you this thought that I think the world is going through a process of transformation, looking for a leadership and building this new kind of leadership.
Si en el pasado se podía construir un liderazgo en base al autoritarismo o el poder de dinero, hoy creo
If in the past we could build a leadership based on authoritarianism or the power of money, today I believe
que la construcción de un liderazgo moral pasa por las convicciones de respetar al que piensa distinto.
I believe that today building a leadership goes necessarily through the conviction of respect towards others that think differently from one,
Con mucha comprensión,
with a lot of comprehension and understanding,
incluso con aquellos con quienes tenemos profundas diferencias.
including those with whom we have deep differences.
Por eso el lema
That's why the theme
de la convención hoy acá en Malasia, de la Fundación Paz Global,
of this 5th Global Peace Convention here in Malaysia today,
unidad en la diversidad,
unity in diversity,
solo se puede lograr respetando al otro.
only can be achieved by respecting others.
Por eso nos sentimos muy identificados con ese lema de la unidad en la diversidad para buscar el bien común de nuestras naciones.
That's why we really feel very much identified with this theme, unity and diversity, to work together, searching for a better life for our communities.
También consideramos necesario
We also consider necessary
transformar a nuestras naciones desde el enfoque de la educación en valores.
to transform our nation from the point of view of education, value education,
Para la construcción de jóvenes que son el presente y el futuro de cada uno de nuestros países.
for the development of youth that are the present, especially the present and the future of our nations.
Y la educación en valores fortalece la cultura de la paz.
And value education strengthen the culture for peace.
La paz que se construye desde la tolerancia, desde la comprensión, desde el diálogo que nosotros impulsamos, entendiendo que son las herramientas para fortalecer la paz.
A peace that is built from dialogue, from understanding, from respect, as an instrument to achieve that peace that we're seeking.
También el liderazgo innovador
And to build that innovative leadership.
no podemos dejar de reconocer en este siglo XXI
We can't go without recognizing in this 21st century,
si bien no buscamos la confrontación de género,
even though we're not looking for the confrontation of gender,
porque Dios nos hizo hombre y mujer,
we have to recognize that God made us men and women.
el protagonismo de la mujer en el siglo XXI a nivel mundial se está haciendo una realidad.
The key role of women in this 21st century worldwide is becoming a reality that we cannot avoid.
Hace unos años era impensable creer que una mujer podía llegar a ser presidenta de la República.
For example, many years ago, we couldn't even think that a woman could become a president of a nation.
Hoy es una realidad en varios países.
Today, we see it as a reality in many countries.
Las mujeres en el mundo buscamos, desde el enfoque de nuestra participación en la sociedad, impulsar ese mensaje solidario de tolerancia y de conciliación en las familias.
We women, from our perspective, are seeking to send the message of tolerance and respect to the society, starting from our families.
Por eso es muy importante trabajar todos juntos, hombres y mujeres.
That's why it's very important to work all together, men and women.
Y podemos reconocer también, como todos los que han hecho uso de la palabra en la mañana de hoy,
And we can recognize also as all of the previous who have spoken today this morning,
si bien lamentamos su partida de Nelson Mandela,
that we really feel that we have lost losing Nelson Mandela.
con un aplauso reconocemos
With
su
a round
testimonio de conducta
of applause, we would like to recognize his legacy
y el demostrar que uno es capaz de tener un liderazgo con moral, con autoridad y con ejemplo.
and the fact that he was able to show a leadership based on moral authority and practical effects.
En Paraguay estamos viviendo un momento histórico buscando un bienestar para todas las familias paraguayas.
In Paraguay, we're living a historic moment, looking for progress and for all the Paraguayan families.
Y cada uno de los integrantes de la delegación paraguaya que estamos acá,
And each one of the delegates from the delegation of Paraguay that we're here today,
entendemos con mucha firmeza el mensaje del Dr. Moon,
we understand with great determination the message given by Dr. Moon,
que desde hace unos años ha dado un mensaje a la juventud paraguaya
that ever since a couple of years ago, he has given a strong message to the youth of Paraguay
con un testimonio de visión,
with a testimony of this vision
de ser capaz de construir una familia bajo Dios
of being able to build one family under God.
por encima de las creencias religiosas,
Regarding religious differences,
etnias
race,
e ideologías políticas,
or political ideologies,
si entendemos que la paz
if we understand that peace
es la herramienta
is the instrument
que puede transformar
that can transform
a nuestras comunidades
our communities
y traer el desarrollo,
and bring development to them.
el mundo va a tener mejores días.
The world, if we are convinced of that, the world will have better days ahead.
También reconocemos el valor de la parte tecnológica como herramienta de buscar un liderazgo innovador.
We also recognize the role of technology as an instrument seeking for this innovative leadership.
Por eso las redes sociales
That's why the networking, social networking,
cumplen un rol importante para estar en comunicación permanente.
play a very key and important role to be in contact permanently.
La transparencia,
Transparency,
el respeto a las instituciones,
respect to institutions,
el respetar las leyes
respecting the laws,
y el buscar a través de la tolerancia,
and looking and seeking through tolerance,
respetar al otro ser humano,
respect the brother, the other human being in front,
consideramos son las herramientas de consolidar ese mensaje de una familia bajo Dios que busca el bien común.
we truly believe that is the instrument that would consolidate the message of looking for one family under God.
El Papa
The
es
Pope
también otra figura que ha construido un liderazgo un liderazgo en base a la autoridad moral e innovadora en los últimos tiempos.
The Pope is also a figure that has built a leadership based on moral authority that we have had in the last few days.
Por eso, agradeciendo una vez más la oportunidad de compartir con ustedes, desearles feliz Navidad y que el año 2014 sea un año venturoso, donde cada uno de ustedes con sus familias tengan esa posibilidad de aportar a sus países ese mensaje de paz tan necesario.
That's why once more I appreciate and I thank you very much for this opportunity to share with you. I wish you happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and it is my hope that when you leave this place, you will take with you to your families the opportunity to share this vision and this feeling of building peace where you are.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Senator Lilian Samaniego, for your fantastic message. You know, you inspire us by giving those examples that you said, for instance, transformational change is possible. You showed us the role of women, and indeed, traditionally, women could only work at home. And now you have showed us women can even become presidents. And I'm so proud that Latin America has a woman president at this moment. And Argentina, fantastic. And I really hope that you will be the next president of your country in Latin America. So don't disappoint us. Yep, thank you. Yeah. Our next guest is Dr. Masudi Shuhud. Dr. Masudi Shuhud has a very impressive bio. He's General Secretary of the Central Board of Nalalul Ulama. Probably I don't pronounce it very well, but just bear with me. Indonesia, largest Muslim organization with membership numbering more than 50 million. Could you imagine? More than 50 million. You know, that's 3 times as many people live in my country. We only have 15 million, and he has 50. He's chairman of the Central Board of Cooperation. He's president director of Darul Ukhma Islamic College Jakarta and the Islamic College Bekasi. He's a lecturer at Azhar University and Trisakti University in Jakarta. Will we join in welcoming our speaker? Could I invite you here, or you could go on that side if it's more convenient? Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Blessing and peace of Allah be with you all. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin. Sayyidina wa maulana Muhammadin sallallahu alaihi wasallam wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in amma ba'du. Ulama anal kiram wa habaiban al afadil masyaikhina wa bil khusus sahibul fadilah, our excellency the honorable Dr. Hyun Jin Moon with his beautiful wife and family, the honorable Dr. Edvalatam, and also the Honorable, our grandmother, Tan Sri Datin Paduka Sari Hajah Saleha, and also our grandfather, Dr. Chandaria, with his family. The president of GPF, Dr. James Flynn. Happy audience, ladies and gentlemen, and all the participants. I am greatly honored to speak in front of you all today on the important topic of peace, living in a harmony among us. With all of you who come from all over the world to Malaysia today. It is the universal virtues and principles which all religions share that should be sublimated and instilled in the mind and behaviors as a common heritage of humanity through a through dialogue among religions and cultures on the basis of universal values and principle of love, mahabbah, brotherhood, al-ukhwah, toleran, tasamuh, mutual respect, solidarity, and justice, al-adalah. Our holy book Quran says, "Washawirhum fil amri, fa'idha azamta fatawakkal 'ala Allah. Innallaha yuhibbul mutawakkilin." And consult them in the affair. Then when you have taken a decision from this meeting, put your trust in Allah. Certainly, Allah loves those who put their trust in Him. My brothers and sisters, in fact, constructive cooperation and actual dialogue among civilization and cultures should not be conceived of without the principle of cultural diversity being firmly established. Therefore, there is no alternative but dialogue for the preservation of cultural diversity and cultural plurality. And human beings all have to determine all living together with a free will, regardless of their different belief. Quran says, "Ya ayyuhan nas, inna khalaqnakum min dzakari wa untha, wa ja'alnakum syu'uban wa qabaila lita'arafu." O mankind, we have created you from a male and female and made you into nation and tribe. Different nation, different tribe, different languages, different religion, that you may know one another. As Islam is divine path and embodies a human way of life, Muslims are confident that since culture is the expression of the genius of people, there is no justification for conceiving of culture as being either sublime or mean and lowly. Each culture has its own genius and is distinctly prolific and enlightened. My homeland Indonesia, which is the motto in Sanskrit word Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, taken as the topic of Global Peace Convention today. Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, it means unity and diversity, is an archipelago in Southeast Asia consisting of 17,000 islands, many islands, and the sea, and 248 million people make it the fourth most populous nation in the world after China, India, and the United States. And also at least 300 different ethnic and 737 local languages. 12.9% of total Muslim population in the world stay in Indonesia. Also, we have significant minorities, Protestant, Roman Catholic, Hindu, Buddhist, and other indigenous faiths. I think it is not easy to manage these differences if we don't trust each other. Considering this diversity, our organization Nahdlatul Ulama has a particular responsibility to be an agent of peace, to seek accommodation through the tenet of our faith that emphasize tolerance and respect for others. Nahdlatul Ulama and you, not 50 million our members, but 70 million members, maybe will be more from the population of Malaysia, has a singular rule to push tolerance and respect, not just as an abstract principle, but as an ethic that can take root in the heart of Indonesian people. Talking about the Indonesia, now Indonesia economic development today, as Roel Oberman, McKinsey Global Institute, MGI director, reported, Indonesia economy today is the 16th largest in the world, has strongly over the past decade, so Indonesia has had the lowest volatility in economic growth among advanced economy in the Organization Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, or the BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, plus South Africa. Indonesia today has 45 million members of consuming class, 53% of population in cities, producing 74% of GDP, 55 million skilled workers in the Indonesian economy, with 0.5 trillion US dollars market opportunity in the consumer services, agriculture and fisheries, resources and education. So far, McKinsey predict on 2030, Indonesia is the 7th largest economy in the world, after China, the United States, India, Japan, Brazil, and Russia, overtaking Germany and United Kingdom. And I believe it will never and never happen in Indonesia if we cannot live in a harmony among others. If we cannot trust to the leaders, if the people do not trust to the leaders, if we cannot trust to the other religions. Sometimes we talk about this because sometimes people in its different religion, tribe, and nation will be no problem with their different opinion. People will be no problem with their different opinion. But it will become a problem if they have different position and earn. Moreover, if they want to take a political position, but it just happened in Indonesia, I do not know in your country. Therefore, I encourage the following should be emphasized. 1, religion, culture, and civilizational diversity is a grace bestowed from our God. And as a Muslim, we are taking on a humanistic mission toward laying down the basis of international peace. And we ought to lend support to the universal civilization for the benefit of the whole humanity. 2, its religion and culture has its own value and enjoy a special status. None can deny the contribution of each religion and culture to the enrichment of the universal culture heritage. In fact, each culture has to be concerned with striving to bridge the gap of misapprehension among civilization. 3, using the moral values of the different cultures in drawing up and working out a global system of ethics and recognizing the diverse sources of knowledge and cultural diversity as a basic characteristic of human society and as an asset indispensable to the progress of humanity. 4, that the values of plurality and cultural diversity are not a justification to exclude to the other. On the contrary, the opportunities and possibilities offered by globalization should be exploited to further solidarity, exchange, and coexistence between people. And 5, respecting the religious right and holy book and text, written and oral. Once more, respecting the religious right and holy book and text, written and oral of people or a nation, as they constitute foundation of different religions and faith, and respecting also mankind, unity, and cultural differences. And the last, we should remember to talk this to our children and our young generation. The last message, don't stop building peace until we have rest in peace. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
I ask you now for another very warm applause for this fantastic message we get this morning. Thank you. You know, this is so fantastic, the message he's giving us. 17,000 islands, and they are all together. And you have such a diversity and still a unity. We should take that home and see if we could make it happen where we are living, in our streets, in our family, in our country. I know for one, in my country, there's a lot of work to do. We are only 15 million, and there are 15 million conflicts going on. So thank you so much. And what you have taught us too is it's not only about solidarity, and it's not only about justice, but it's more importantly about trust. Trust, yes. And let us take that home. We cannot have unity without trusting the other. And trusting a person starts where you are, where you're sitting now. And then it extends in the family, in the streets, in the schools, and in the country. Thank you for sharing that. Our next guest, before he comes to the mic to speak to you, has brought with him a video message. And I would very much appreciate if you concentrate on the video, and after the video, he will share his thoughts with us. Could I have the video, please?
Is a mosquito.
Each year, malaria borne by mosquitoes kills 300,000 Nigerians, equivalent to the population of a city. How do we combat this killer insect? The faith effect. Here in the 8th most populous country in the world, half Muslim, half Christian, faith leaders are working together to fight the mosquito. The solution should be simple: long-lasting insecticide-treated bed nets, spraying their household, and other simple precautions. But many people here still don't understand the dangers of malaria and don't take any precautions at all. For lack of knowledge, they die. So, while the mosquito spreads malaria, how can we spread the word?
Good morning and may God bless you all.
The essence of the faith effect is to use religious infrastructure to deliver knowledge from a trusted authority to influence people to adopt healthier behaviors. It works because it delivers the one thing that all the money in the world cannot buy: trust.
Our members listen to us. They believe us. The level of confidence and trust that our members have in us, they don't have it even in their doctors. They don't have it in their political leaders. They trust us. They believe that faith leaders are divine.
Let me do this. How many of you have a mosquito net in your house? That's a good number. And that is the only way to go.
The Nigerian Interfaith Action Association, or NIFA, brings the faith effect to life. This NGO trains Nigerian faith leaders, imams, preachers, and others how to teach their congregations about malaria prevention and treatment.
Father, open our minds that we may learn.
In these sessions, faith leaders get medical information about malaria, instructions on how to use mosquito nets, and training on how to teach and preach within their houses of worship about this deadly disease.
You,
the faith leaders have great influence. Alhamdulillah, people listen to you.
Nigerians are highly religious. Attending mosque or church is often the highlight of the week. So it makes sense to reach Nigerians through their religious leader, the person 85% say they trust the most. Here is NIFA at work. First, there is an educational component.
Ensure that you let them know that they must sleep under this net.
Now listen, children, I am a reverend. I have come to you to let you know that we need to keep away. We work with the imams to make sure that mosquito does not affect you.
Students, yes. You know the story of Noah and his people in the Quran? Yes. No, about this mosquito is just like that. Let us take the warning. Let us not be like people of Noah. Did you get me? Yes.
NIFA staff and faith leaders also work closely with healthcare workers in Nigeria.
Make sure you sleep under the net every day.
While the Nigerian National Malaria Control Program distributes mosquito nets, NIFA trains faith leaders how to use and care for them so they can instruct their leaders.
It is easy for people to collect the nets and dump them somewhere without utilizing them. And it is the business of the faith leaders to encourage them to use it.
This is a cascade training model. NIFA directly trains 200 to 300 faith leaders in each state where they operate. Each leader in turn trains 20 to 50 more leaders. This amounts to over 6,000 faith leaders per state. In Nigeria's 36 states, that will yield over 200,000 trained leaders.
We have one enemy.
These leaders spread the word to at least 50 congregants.
This malaria is our great enemies. We should try to fight it. Both Christian and Muslim, they are fighting against it.
In this way, NIFA has spread powerful messages about malaria control to over 2 million people in its first 3 states, with many more to come. And it's working. In the state of Kaduna, use of bed nets rose by more than 60 percentage points after faith leaders brought the NIFA message to their congregants, showing that these life-saving messages are reaching people and changing behaviors. NIFA would be impossible without the active involvement of faith leaders at the very highest levels, including the spiritual leader of the Muslims, the Sultan of Sokoto, and the head of the Christian Association, Pastor Ayo Oritse Jafo.
There are religious leaders in this country that are connected with the people. And if they connect with religious leaders, believe me, they can achieve much, much, much more than they can ever imagine.
We believe we're following our religious injunctions for us to be our brother's keepers, for us to love your neighbor as you love yourself. If we could come together instead of having such conflicts, let's harness this strength together and develop our people, our communities, and of course our country.
In mosques, in churches, in homes, and under the protection of nets over thousands of beds, the faith effect is at work, saving lives, one sermon at a time.
That was very inspiring. You only have one enemy, not the enemy we thought we have a mosquito as an enemy, so not a religion. Fantastic. Let me introduce to you Bishop Sunday Unu Owa. He's founder and president of Vision Africa. Vision of Africa focuses on bringing networks of faith communities to share God's love and empowering the grassroots groups which are helping to build Nigeria's capacity to solve social issues from inside out. As a former pastor and chairman of Youth for Abia State Government, he is director of the Nigerian Interfaith Action Association, the largest Christian-Muslim interreligious collaboration to end malaria in Nigeria. He's appointed as Special Assistant on Privatization in the Presidential Cabinet of the former President of Nigeria, Obasanjo. He's consecrated as bishop in the Nigerian Methodist Church. I ask you for a warm round of applause for Bishop Sunday Unowa. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Moon and your wife, and members of this great one family for bringing us together here as one family under God. If we are not a family, we will not be here together. And I bring to all of us the greetings from His Eminence, the Sultan of Sokoto, the Cardinal of Naeko, and the President of CAN. I know I have 5 minutes, but Africans tell stories. And because we are in one family, I will tell a story of what happened to a family. A young man got married. The first night of their honeymoon, they went to a beautiful hotel, and I wouldn't mention the name of the hotel. Right in the middle of the night, the wife cried out, a newly married wife. And the man woke up to realize that a rat came in the night to bite the legs of the wife. The man was discouraged that his newly married wife was subjected to the romance of the rat and decided to fight a battle against Mr. Rat. And so the following night, the rat came back for that romance attitude. The man decided he would no longer wait for the destruction of Mr. Rat and went out the following day to buy the rat trap and brought in the rat trap and set up the rat trap. And so when Mr. Rat decided to come back after the day's work to continue with his romantic attitude, he realized that there was a rat trap in the room. The rat ran away and went to Mr. Chicken and said, listen, we all belong to this family. There is a problem in this house. And Mr. Chicken asked Mr. Rat, what is the problem? Mr. Rat said, Mr. Chicken, inside this our house, this our family, there is a rat trap. I need help. Mr. Chicken said, what business do I have with rat trap? I am chicken. It doesn't affect me. And so Mr. Rat decided to go to Superior Court of Mr. Goat and say, Mr. Goat, there is a rat trap inside that house. We need to address it as a family. There is a problem in this house. And Mr. Goat looked at Rat and said, you must be crazy. Something must be wrong with you. Look at me. And you are telling me about a rat trap inside the house. Please, get out of my sight. Mr. Rat decided not to keep quiet and went to Cow. And went to Mr. Cow and said, inside is our home that we all live together. There is a rat trap. I need help. The cow was so upset on Mr. Rat and said, listen, look at my size. And you are telling me about rat trap that is so small. It is not my business. And so Mr. Rat decided to run into the bush because no one could help him. Right in that night, it was snowing heavily, very cold. The snake decided to find some solace inside the house because it was cold. The snake stumbled on the trap. The trap caught the snake and caught the snake's tail. The snake stumbled and stumbled into the bed and beat the woman. The woman cried out. because of a snake bite. And the man rushed the wife to the hospital. Before they got to the hospital, the wife died. The man cried and cried and cried and came back home. And it was very cold in the night. He woke up his children and called all the members of the family, and they killed the chicken in order to talk together. And the following day, they were to plan for the funeral. They killed the goat in order to plan for the funeral. And on the funeral day, they killed the cow. One family under God. We all belong to the same family. And if somebody does not care, thinking that it doesn't concern him, it concerns all of us. And for us, in Nigeria, in the Nigerian Interfaith Action Association, we have decided to say that we all belong to one family, and we must all care, irrespective of religion or language. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Bishop. I was just getting accustomed to the story, and then I thought something is more. I want more. Do you have more of those stories? You know, a story has such a deep message, as simple as it sounds. I could see that rat running around, and I could see the goat and the cow, the snake. You know what, more importantly and fundamentally is that you taught us that when we do nothing, we have a high price to pay. You know, when we do nothing, we create people that cannot fit in anymore. When we do nothing, maybe we create the people we don't like to see around, which we call terrorists. And the art of being a human is to see the other person as your brother. Thank you so much for sharing that thought. Thank you. My next guest, and our very distinguished guest, is Tantri Razali Ismail. Over 35 years of service with a Malaysian diplomatic service he has behind him. And it's very impressive, his career. Just listen. He was ambassador to Poland, ambassador to the German Democratic Republic, ambassador to Czechoslovakia, ambassador to Hungary, and if that was not enough, he was High Commissioner to India, Deputy Secretary General and permanent representative to the United Nations. And if that was not enough, at the UN, he has served as chairman of the Group of 77, president of the UN Security Council, chairman of the Commission on Sustainable Development, president of the United Nations General Assembly. And he was not tired, so recently he was appointed chairman of the Global Movement of Moderates Foundation. May I welcome with you with a warm applause our next guest.
Thank you. Salam Sejahtera in my language. Very happy to be invited. I have my view is that I was invited to try to discuss with you issues related to unity in diversity and how we could exchange views, question and answers, how we can find ways to concretize this concept of unity in diversity, exchanging experiences at the very least. I welcome you all to ask me any kind of questions after my short little address. But first I want to say that, that what I've heard this morning are very stirring stuff. But the subject of unity in diversity is so broad that it is easier to deal with it in speeches than to deal with it in question and answer panels, to discuss things in actuality. It is very inspiring to hear of one religion under God and all of us committed in unity and diversity to make sure that this comes about as a human quest and pursuit. But world has another aspect of it. You have to deal with the reality of how things are. And when you try to operationalize some of the things that have been mentioned this morning, then you come up against some very difficult problems. I think in everything that we do, we are saddled with our worldview and our national consciousness. In many cases, the worldview, the aspirations, do not gel with whatever nation states want to do. If you are interested in dealing with it, I can add you another dimension. More than the worldview, together with the worldview and the national positions of states, are also the need of the planet. Then you add in also the people who are not just Malaysians or Indonesians or Nigerians, but people who are over years who belong to communities who are used to a certain kind of life, certain preoccupation, and who are now having a lot of problems being locked in by states, as it were, not being able to do the things that they were used to do before. You have the Penans in my part of the world, you have the Tuaregs in North Africa, you have all sorts of people. And for all these things, there is no answer as yet what to do. Governments, of course, are accountable. Governments should have done better. But governments take into account who are the people they are that will vote them in. And they take into account usually the mainstream of what people feel. The question is there enough compassion in governments and people to deal with the people who are marginalized? This is very important. In my part of the world, we have done very well over 50, 60 years, each of the countries of ASEAN, to have achieved a level of economic progress and development and quality of life that rivals others, even better than others perhaps. But some things we have not been able to do. Despite that, there are still pockets of marginalized people in parts of Southeast Asia. People who still live in contaminated lands, drink polluted water. Your theories, your economic theories and your good intentions have not been able to help. So I would implore on the people today here to take all these things into account. We cannot have a glorious set of community living under one God if we do not have something to say to help these people who are still living under abject poverty, who are still repressed by political violence. I would enjoin that we carry with us that residual responsibility as a human being. Whether we come from Latin America, we come from Asia, we carry that residual responsibility that we will not forget these people. For us in Southeast Asia, it's a very big proposition. We cannot actually interfere with what nation states do, but the problems are in this country or that country. But because ASEAN respects very strongly the idea of sovereignty and non-interference, ASEAN has only to influence in a different way to get certain things done. Because we are very close together, these 5 countries, it is possible to begin to make an impact, to try to think not just for Malaysians, but for Indonesians, for Cambodians, and all sorts of them. So be able to make that difference. So slowly, steadily, these things are beginning to happen. The marginalized people of this area are beginning to have a better sense of expectation, hope. But there is another problem in Southeast Asia. The movement of people, migrant races, trafficking in human and women and children. For every time a government does something, there is the underworld that tries to do even better than governments. So people are trafficked, put into prostitution, people are forced to bear arms, all sorts of things that are happening. We have the best, most sophisticated kind of the underworld in this part of the world. Perhaps you may think of this as a Hollywood notion, but it is not. It is for real. When I was doing work for the UN in Myanmar, I was made to be aware of how marginalized certain pockets of people were in certain parts of Myanmar because the authority of the state was not there and they had to depend on these underworld arrangements. So we have to give thought to all that. So we can go on and on talking about shared values, but shared values among the people who are there, who are prosperous. We should be thinking in terms of shared values among the people who are not prosperous. Why don't we say we make sure that certain medicines for diseases are not only meant for the people who can afford it, but we allow for generic medicine to be made available to everybody, that then medicine can be cheap for everybody. So there are these things that must prick our conscience. I may sound a bit in a state of despair, but I think there is many things that we would have to do. And now I've come to the conclusion of the sort that governments are not enough. If you see what governments have done over the years, they have done remarkably well, but a lot of the work is unfinished. I attended a meeting on environmental law in Germany a month ago. This was a get-together of professors and academicians, and I was the only one that was underqualified. But nevertheless, I was there, and it is obvious that, according to them, that 50% of their treaties that have been negotiated and agreed to and ratified by parliaments have not been properly implemented, at least 50%. It is obvious to them that there is no other way to go. So if you begin to depend only on governments coming together to work out all these serious environmental problems by agreeing to new environmental laws, you have a long way to come. So some of us have come to the conclusion that we should agitate, force from the shop floor upwards, people to insist that their community, the NGOs, agitate even further for voluntary, unilateral acceptance of environmental laws. This is being done in Europe, but Europe is not Asia. Europe is based on legalistic foundations. In Asia, it is a bit more complicated than that. But nevertheless, it has to be done. It has to be done in Nigeria, in Africa, Latin America, in several other places. The ability of governments to expand energy and politics in dealing with these things are rather limited at this moment. So I was interested in looking at the ex-heads of governments making all these declarations. I would hope that they would take this into account and build things from the shop floor to get things done. Leadership, world leadership, one of the questions they would ask in Davos 2 years ago was the dearth of good world leadership. For some reason, we are it is our karma, perhaps, to be able to deal with world leadership that are really not of the right caliber. Whatever did we do to deserve a guy like Bush? So we have to begin to ask these questions. Are our leaders up to the mark in dealing not just with national questions, but also with global responsibilities? I am not sure I can be positive in that answer. We extol our leadership to the point that we almost make demigods out of them. But sometimes we make the mistake of not making them accountable, particularly on the corruption of power and corruption of material wealth. People are too believing. People are like sheep. They follow ideas. Even one of the best statesmen in the world, Julius Nyerere, talked about African socialism. And for a long while, the people in Africa, particularly in his state, Tanzania, believed that was possible. But that idea impoverished a lot of Tanzania and Tanganyika. And it was only much later that he recanted and he took out African socialism. So there are many things that we expect from our leaders, but there are many things we should not expect from our leaders. Make them accountable every step of the way. Finally, my area of Southeast Asia. This is a wonderful anthropological paradise. There's at least 100 different communities in this area. But the governments are strict, nationally driven governments that consider things in the context of their own governmental entity. We are going to be a community by 2014, 2015. I think ASEAN. And there is a drive in modernization to bring about a common concept of even culture. I think this would be a disastrous mistake to think that we can try to homogenize culture in Southeast Asia. Government officials should take into account that in an attempt to homogenize many things, including economics, which is possible, it would be dangerous to try to homogenize culture, the whole hybrid and canvas of tapestry of culture in this part of the world. So I leave you with these thoughts. I'm totally supportive of what Dr. Moon was trying to say just now, but I'm throwing to you all the problems and obstacles along the way. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tan Sri Razali Ismail. You give us a very deep message, and I was soul-searching in a few seconds after you pronounced that sentence. You said, people are like sheep. So I hope that I change, because when you said that, I did some soul searching, and indeed, in some situations, I'm like a sheep, And what life wants of us is to do some soul searching and take your message and change ourselves. If we want to change the world, we have to start taking these messages and change ourselves. You gave another very important message where you say we should not homogenize a culture. Everybody is not the same. I think that was your message. I think what we should do with what you're saying is give everybody the space to be who they are. But at the same time, respect the human dignity of the other person. And that's a very long process in our lives. Well, the world has come a long way, and the 4 distinguished guest panelists has taught us this morning that the world has gone from being exclusive to being inclusive. Like our first guest said, traditionally, women were excluded from almost everything out of the house. But now, we have women presidents. That's inclusive thinking. And that's the road we have to go. After the Second World War, we wanted unity, but we wanted diversity too. And both are compatible. We could have unity and we could have diversity. And we could only have that, as our last speaker said, if we are not a sheep, just walking behind someone that's saying something, but using our own brains. And that's the message Dr. Hyun Jin Moon put to us this morning. There are so many beautiful mechanisms and values in so many traditions, and we have to be positive and be transformational. And as Dr. Moon said this morning, the time to talk is over. We expect all of you to do something, to make it happen, to make the unity in diversity happen. Take all of these messages with you and make it happen. And because Dr. Moon said this morning, the time to talk is over, I am going to close my mouth, but not before giving you an off-the-record message. At 2:30, we'll start again with an afternoon session. The session will be here, but in separate rooms. So just look around and join in. And please be so friendly and kind to think a little inclusive, 2:30, and not 2:35. Enjoy your meal, and thank you very much. May I ask a round of applause for all my panelists? Thank you so much.
Thank you.